You're really going to want to watch this video because this could prevent an upcoming video disaster. And I'm going to show you all kinds of ways how to prevent a corrupted video file, how to prevent your camera from overheating, all kinds of cool stuff you may not have thought of. But first I'm going to pick 3 winners for Inky Gold Crows. Here we go. First, the Gold Crow 60. The winner is Bo Reynolds of Fort Walton Beach, Alabama. Another one is, let's see here, Vic Peralta of Morrisville, North Carolina. Congratulations. And finally, the winner of the big Inky 150. Here we go. The winner of that one is Terry Gore of Keysville, Georgia. Congratulations. All right, so let's get on with this. I've had this happen quite a bit lately with the Fuji XM-5. Now, this is really important. This works with almost any camera. This one particularly likes to. I've been playing a lot with 4K 60, and a lot of you are doing 4K 60, so those of you who are, you're really going to want to watch this video. A tiny little camera like this, trying to cram 4K 60 into a little SD card is going to overheat and is going to cause corrupted files. So there's a few things you really should do to prevent that from happening. The first thing with any camera is go into your settings and the auto temperature shutdown, set it to high. So the camera gets really hot, but it won't shut down. Second thing is, on this camera, and some other ones might have it too, there's a cooling fan setting. Make sure it's set to high, not auto 1 or auto 2. Auto 2 means it says prioritize camera temperature. What that means is the fan's not even going to come on until the camera's already hot. By then it's already too late and it's probably skipping things while it's recording. You don't want that to happen. Have the camera fan on high all the time. You can't hear it. It's quiet. Part of the reason that the corrupted file is happening when you're shooting 4K 60 especially, it's cramming a lot of information in the SD card. The processor's overheating, the SD card's overheating, got a battery in there that's overheating. It can't handle that much. So what you want to do is pare down and strip down your settings down to the bare minimum so your processor is not working very hard, because right now it's beyond what it can handle. So the first thing is turn off everything that you absolutely don't need. Don't shoot RAW, don't shoot logs, don't shoot LUTs, don't use film looks, just use the standard setting, which is Provia. That's the lightest mode on here. Turn off, if if it's okay, shut down face detect or any kind of autofocus, especially face eye detect. It uses a lot of processing to follow you. Now, I need it, so I need to keep that on, so I have to make up for that by shutting down some other stuff. I'll get to that in a second here. The biggest user of processing in here is skin smoothing, and in the Fuji, it's called Portrait Enhance. And even on the weak setting, that is one of the heaviest real-time filters you could run on this camera, because think about it, it's actually trying to identify a face and smooth it. It's smoothing 60 faces per second in 4K. That's a lot of processing power other than just cramming the information 200 megabytes per second into an SD card. So now I want to use, that's the irony is that's the whole reason I got this camera, because look, I'm 63 years old. I want skin smoothing. Okay. So I need eye autofocus because I move around. I don't want to take a chance and have it focus on the background, and I want skin smoothing on. So those are 2 really big processor users, and it causes the camera to run hotter. But I need those 2. So how do I make up for it? I'll get to that in a second here. All right. If you can, on your camera, if it allows it, use 8-bit 420. Don't use 10-bit 422. Look, if you're doing stuff for YouTube, 422 10-bit is overkill anyway. Unless you're doing green screen or something, don't use it. You're making your camera overwork unnecessarily. Choose a lower bit rate. Instead of 200 megabits per second, choose 100 or 50. This camera does not have that choice. It's locked onto 200 megabits per second for 4K 60. If you do 4K 30, then it goes down to 100 megabits per second. You're cutting your data rate in half, your information cramming in half, just by going from 4K 60 to 4K 30. Now, if you want 4K 60, which I do too, just like you do, what are you going to do? Well, I'll get to that in a second. Stick with me here, all right? But you're trying to cut down the amount of information this thing has to process 60 times a second. So that's a big one. For 4K 60, obviously it's recording onto an SD card, so use a UHS-2 V90 card, not a V60 or a V30. It's got to be a V90 card for 4K 60, UHS-2, or even better, don't even use an SD card at all. I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, use a dummy battery. Instead of using this thing, because this thing is overheating inside the camera, you don't want to have this thing being a heat source in there, so you want to have a dummy battery that goes in there. This produces no heat, so you want to have that in there. Now, here's where something a lot of people don't think about. Okay, this is an old style USB-A. This is the original USB style. You don't want to use this. USB-A outputs 5 volts and the camera needs 7.2 to 8.4 volts, so the voltage gets converted inside the dummy battery, creating heat inside the camera, defeating the whole purpose of the dummy battery. You also don't really want to use a USB-C version because USB-C only outputs 5 volts, 9 volts, and 12 volts, meaning the 9 volt would have to be down converted, again creating heat, and the communication is more complicated. It has to create a PD handshake, making it a bit more unstable. And this is kind of a problem with commercial power banks anyway. The whole PD negotiation thing makes it a little unstable, especially for things like this, which you don't want. What you want is an NP battery. They're a lot more stable and they output the straight 7.4 volts, which is exactly what the camera needs. And you want to plug the NP battery into something like a small rig NPF battery plate. Don't use the USB-A or USB-C outputs. Use the 7.4 volt output with the 5.5 by 2.1 millimeter cable going right to the hollow dummy battery, which has no electronics inside it, so nothing gets hot inside the camera. Always make sure your dummy battery is converting your voltage outside of the dummy battery. Actually, the best dummy battery to use is the one that you plug in the wall, the AC current one. This is the most stable one of all. If you can plug it into a wall, then use that. Now, also for cooling, you're going to want to have a cooling fan, an extra cooling fan stuck out. This works only for cameras that have a thing that flips out sideways, not for ones that flip up. It has a spring in it. It just clips on right in there like that, ready to go. And you have 2 speeds, low and high. It's a Ulanzi CA25. You turn it on. It's pretty quiet. I mean, for the camera being 4 feet away, you're not going to probably hear it. That'll pull the hot air off the back of the camera. Obviously, having the screen open helps too, but this helps really pull the... So between the internal fan on the camera being set to high and this fan pulling, it helps a lot. But the biggest reason for a camera overheating is that your camera is trying to record 4K 60 into a tiny little SD card, and anything over like 4 minutes, it's just going to overwhelm it, and it's just going to, because what it has to do, it has to encode into H.264 and then mux it and then wrap that into an MP4 wrapper. And if anything, like a slight drop in voltage, the camera overheating, the frame rate going from 60 to 30 to 20 to 10 because it's backing up with data flow backing up, any of that could screw up your encoding and your muxing and your wrapping at the end. So there's going to be like your video is going to be like, there's going to be like a screeching sound, and your video is going to be jerky, and it's going to screw you up, all because it's trying to record onto an SD card. So the best thing to do is to just not use an SD card at all. What you should be using is this. It's an external recorder. This is a Ninja. I'm sure they have other ones now, but this is a really good, dependable one. You stick it on the hot shoe like that, put it in the HDMI out, and now this is the cool part. Okay, this also works with NP battery. But now here's the really cool thing, and you have a SSD here. And if you were recording into the SD card, this particular camera, the XM-5, only records 8-bit 420, but at 200 megabits per second, and that's going to overwhelm the card. So 8-bit 420, but it outputs uncompressed 10-bit 422, clean uncompressed video, so you're getting better quality than if you're recording onto an SD card. And it's not encoding, it's not compressing, it's not doing anything. It's a streaming camera, and it doesn't have to work hardly at all, other than maybe the processing of the skin smoothing or the face tracking. But it outputs a signal via HDMI into your recorder with a lot less hassle. So if you don't want any glitches or shutdowns or corrupted video files, this is your biggest thing to do, is use an external recorder of some kind. Don't record into the camera. If your Ninja starts recording a whole bunch of little tiny files, that means the data is skipping, which means you need to change the cable. The cable can't handle that much information. You still want to cut down the processor stuff as much as possible so it doesn't hiccup, because sometimes if your camera hiccups, you will get a skippy symbol on here, which means you're still going to get some glitches. So you want to cut down the processor load as much as possible still with your camera. Now, this also works with other brands of cameras too, but I'm talking particularly for this thing here. So basically, you've got a live streaming camera now that's recording onto an external SSD recorder. There's no more encoding. There's no more file wrapping. Obviously, set your camera's power saving auto shutdown to never. So the camera never shuts down. I mean, because it's not recording. Some cameras can go, oh, he's not using me, so they just shut down after a minute or 5, which you don't want to have to. So you want to have the camera never shut down and output nonstop via HDMI to an external recorder. This is your biggest lifesaver right here. To keep your file sizes smaller, I highly suggest recording in ProRes LT. That's super high quality, but it's the smallest file size, and it's not as risky to record as 265. I know it's kind of clunky, it's not very ergonomically elegant, but this is a lifesaver. If you're doing 4K 60 and you're shooting for half an hour, there's no way you're going to get a clean recording into your little SD card with a camera like this without some kind of corrupted without it probably overheat in the first place anyway and shut down. So without the camera overheating, without getting corrupted files, this is your biggest friend right here. And do the other stuff that I talked about with the dummy battery, the cooling fan, the NP battery instead of a PD USB battery, and shut down all the processing stuff that you don't need. If it's on a tripod like right now, which I always use a tripod, I don't walk around with my camera. Turn the stabilization off. You don't need it. That's a lot of processing power that is being wasted. And the little thing that makes the image go like this to try to correct, for shakiness, you don't need that. The camera's just sitting on a tripod. So there you go. So that will save your ass. You could be, especially if you're a wedding photographer or something, even if your camera's not on a tripod and you're walking around with it, external recorder. If you're using, even with like an A7R5, sometimes that thing, if you're doing 4K 60, at some point you're going to get a corrupted file. It might not be the camera's fault. It could be the SD card. It's just a lot of information being crammed in there. So you got to shut down as much processing power as you can and make the work be done by this thing, not this thing. This is actually how I'm recording this video right now. I've got an XM-5 running 4K 60 into a Ninja. And to answer the question that some of you are going to ask, Marcus, why are you shooting 4K 60? Well, because the 1080 on the Fuji XM-5 looks horrible. It's really low resolution, especially when you compare it with other cameras. It looks pretty bad. 4K looks good. Just like on the Sony A7C, it sucks in 1080, but it looks good in 4K. Certain cameras just don't look good in 1080, so that's why. And I like the 60 frame 3D look. I just like that. So that's me. I hope that helped, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.